Hello, and welcome back to another Fireside chat with the Wake Forest Summer Immersion Program. I am Betsy Schneider. I'm Program Director of the program, and I am so excited to be here with two favorite academic leaders. They are our academic leaders for the Engineering Institute, Dr. Melissa Kenny and Dr. William Crowe. Hey, how are you all today?
Doing
Thriving.
all right.
Good, good. Okay. So we get lots of questions about the Engineering Institute, not only because the engineering department at Wake is fairly new and young, but also because engineering is one of our newer institutes. And so oftentimes students and families have a lot of questions about it. So why don't you all, we'll start with you, Dr. Kenny. Why don't you kick things off and just tell us a little bit about your background and what inspired you to lead the Engineering Institute?
Okay, well, so my background is in biomedical and biological engineering. So I did my undergrad work at Cornell and then went to grad school at Virginia Tech and came right here to be a teaching professor. I wanted to come to Wake and work for Wake because we're a liberal arts infused engineering program. So we're trying to create these kind of general engineering students to have an understanding of other areas like the humanities and social sciences, fine arts, literature, all of those areas, not just the technical knowledge, although that comes with it too. And I've always been really passionate about advising, and I work with all of our students from freshman to senior year, helping to advise them. And so to me, advising doesn't just start when you come to college, it starts well before that when you're in high school searching for colleges. So I really wanted to be a part of this program and kind of volunteered for other programs before, and then wanted to start an engineering one to, be able to talk to high school students about what engineering at Wake is like.
Awesome. Well, I didn't mention this at the beginning, but you can see that Dr. Kenny and Dr. Crowe are are fun academic leaders. They are the only academic leaders who are really excited about getting a fireside chat background. So I think your two different backgrounds kind of good encapsulation of kind of who you are as individuals and academic leaders. So I'll pass it to you, Dr. Crowe. Talk us through who you are and your background and why you get excited about the Engineering Institute.
Thanks, Betsy. So I'm also a biomedical engineer, although as students get to know Dr. Kenny and I, we are very different types of engineers, despite having the same terminal degree. So a lot of my background is in medical imaging and cancer theranostic devices. And I am the type of engineer that has a 3D printer at home and uses it a lot. And I like to tinker with all sorts of silly things. And I have a track car that I take to the weekend to tracks on weekends. So I have a diverse set of engineering related interests, I guess. And what kind of inspired me to get involved in the Engineering Institute is around showing younger people what engineering really is all about. I sometimes get the feeling that people think that engineers are just people that sit behind computers and press buttons all day. And we do so much more cool stuff than that. And this institute has been designed by Dr. Kenny and I to kind of illuminate some of the uh, like real engineering challenges that we do with our students. And you'll get a range of experiences from what our freshmen may see to what our seniors may see. So it's kind of how we've designed the Institute.
Yeah, I will for sure echo that. The diverse hands-on experiences that students are getting in this institute is pretty amazing. Dr. Kenny and Dr. Crowe are true engineers, whereas they look in activity how students enjoyed it, and they're always trying to make it more hands-on and more engaging, and always looking at data and trying to kind of tweak and tinker with the institute in and of itself to make it better and better each year. So that's really cool to kind of be a part of. Dr. Kenny, can you talk us through maybe what students can expect on a typical day in the Engineering Institute?
So, like you said, Betsy, we really like hands-on activities. We're not a department that really enjoys lecturing a whole lot, because we think students learn by kind of getting their hands dirty and really attempting to do things, whether that's solving problems on the board or trying to create prototypes, tinkering with things, like Dr. Crowe said, like trying to do some of those. So to us, a typical day is a hands-on project. Like, we go right into how can we learn these things hands-on? How can we go through this and expose students? And those projects vary in how like difficulty, and in, how scaffolded they are, and how much creativity is involved, and those types of pieces. But we spend a lot of time doing hands-on projects. We do have some like tours and guest speakers, people that you'll talk to in engineering, to give you more diverse perspectives than just my own and Dr. Crowe's and what we can bring in. But we try and kind of layer those moments with these hands-on activities. So that's kind of what a typical day looks like. You're going to be moving a lot during the
Mhm.
Engineering Institute. I think that would be a great way to look at it.
Yeah, and speaking of the guest presenters, I love how you all have incorporated engaging with undergraduate engineering majors, graduate students, other faculty that you work with. And then we also get to engage with people working in industry. So it's kind of like the full range of engineering professionals that a student can really engage with. Okay, I'm going to pass it to you, Dr. Crowe. So Dr. Kenny mentioned field trips and some of the experiences that students might get to do as part of the Engineering Institute. So what would you say are the most exciting or unique experiences or field trips that students will get to go on?
So I think there are a lot of unique experiences, but I think one thing I would highlight is our tour of the John Deere manufacturing facility. That's fairly local to us. It's down the street in Kernersville. And so there, students get to get on the factory floor looking at how all this large heavy equipment is manufactured. But they don't only see how it's manufactured, they also get to chat with engineers that are designing or developing some of this heavy equipment. And I think that sort of piece of getting not only to see it being built, but also to talk to the people that design some of this stuff is really kind of part of what sets that experience apart from similar ones that may be they've experienced before.
Yeah. And so, every year it kind of varies as to where we go on our field trips. Sometimes it's John Deere, sometimes it's other kind of engineering businesses. But every year, students at least get to go behind the scenes and engage with those professionals, which I think is really valuable because part of this experience is kind of breaking out beyond the four walls of a classroom and kind of engaging with this material in real life. Um, Dr. Kenny, one of your days that you've really built out throughout or during the Engineering Institute, the students work on a big project. So why don't you unveil that project and kind of talk about the really cool project that students get to work on during the Engineering Institute?
Yeah, so students get to work on a ton of kind of small projects and small builds. And there's several that are our favorites. Dr. Crowe runs some that I think are super fun. I run some that I'm sure he finds fun. Like, we have a ton of these little projects, but to me, my favorite is for one whole day. So this is like a whole day project. It's not one of those little ones. Students basically have to brainstorm in small groups. They brainstorm, design, prototype, and then build a functional piece of furniture out of cardboard. And that's all done throughout the day. So you kind of start by just thinking about what you might want to make. You start sketching, you start looking at other ways to do this, and you work in your groups to come up with like all the features that you want. Do you want a cup holder? You want like armrests, backrest, whatever you want, and then you build it. And by the end, students not only build it, but Dr. Crowe usually comes in and does some very high-end testing of seeing how quickly he can sit down on them, how well they'll hold. And students really enjoy that. And I think it's really cool to see like building something to that scale that can hold that much weight. Like, you'd be shocked how much cardboard can hold. Um, and I think students in the past have had a lot of fun. And this is a project that we do in our freshman engineering class over the course of, it'll actually start in the second half of the semester usually, and it takes about half the semester, so maybe 6, 7 weeks to design and build something. And the high school students that come to this program do it all in what, like 6 hours, and with a lunch break in the middle. And let me tell you, I have kept some of the high school ones as example to freshmen to like not drop the ball, because some of the ones I've seen have been super impressive, and I think it's a lot of fun. So to me, that's my favorite project.
Yeah, I'm always super impressed with these chairs, and I'm super impressed when they hold Dr. Crowe. They're like, pretty sturdy and strong to be able to
Well,
hold.
it's because Dr. Crowe really, like, he'll jump on them, like
Yeah,
that.
I just
Just to
want
be
to.
clear, it's not just sitting on them. Dr. Crowe's like, oh, it's a long day, let me fall on this, and they hold. It's very impressive.
Yeah, I just to jump in, I'm 6'2" and 260 pounds, so it's like not like a small person that's jumping on these chairs. And some of them, they are encouraging like doing a box jump or something onto these chairs. Or one notable one last year, I like kind of jumped up and then down on as I was sitting, and it did not give at all. And it was very startling to me to see how strong some of these students are able to build these chairs in such limited time.
I think we have a video of that on social media. So check us out, Wake Pre-College.
Check that out.
Dr. Crowe, do you want to go into the hydraulic arm project and talk about that?
Sure. So I am also a huge fan of Dr. Kenny's project where she does the cardboard furniture with students. I think that it's such a cool long-term project to see them like go through all the stages of design work. Um, at least all the bigger ones. But another project that we run focuses more on like a dynamic system where they're actually building a hydraulic powered arm. And you may have seen these around in sort of kit forms, but this one's a little fancier. And it has an electromechanical side where they're actually motors that we will control through either a microcontroller or with some buttons and some power supplies to actually remotely power parts of the hydraulic arm. And then students can pick up different objects with the arm, and the arm might have different geometries or different fingers or things like that to accomplish different tasks. And that's a project that takes about 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours, and it's really interesting to see how students take somewhat different approaches to actually like picking, first of all, like which fingers they think will do best and what they can pick up with those fingers. It's kind of part of the fun thing for me.
Yeah. So
I think that kind of creativity comes into all of our projects. Like, we try to create projects where there is not one right answer. Like, the goal here is to come in and design what you think might be the most successful, whether that holds the most weight, or, is the fanciest, or is has the finest motor controls for this arm, or that kind of, like, it's really what you want to do will help you do it.
Yeah, I just want to add on to that, like no one right answer, because there are very few times in real life where only one like quantity describes how good an object is, right? So there's always like one might be a little better at this thing, one might be a little better at that thing, and one might be like a totally off the wall way of thinking about it that solves another problem for a group of people. So this is it's really interesting to see the students think outside the box and really finish these projects in really creative ways.
yeah, I think one of the things I really love about this institute is you mentioned this, like the creativity, the resilience, the like failing fast. There's so many kind of really great skills, problem solving that engineering kind of builds in a student. So, kind of talk through one of the biggest questions we get is just talking about Wake's approach to engineering because it is a little bit more holistic. So could one of you talk about kind of Wake Forest engineering in general and how students will kind of experience that during the Engineering Institute?
Yeah, I can. I think so Wake basically offers a general engineering degree. We don't offer any specialty degrees like mechanical engineering or biomedical engineering or civil, environmental, anything like that. It's a general engineering degree. And we do that kind of on purpose. One, because we're a small program, so we can't offer all of these different degrees with the size that we are, but also because we want to create engineers who have this really solid foundation in engineering knowledge. And so the courses that students take here at Wake kind of provide that foundation, and they give exposure, and we provide examples and applications across all the different kind of silos of engineering. And so in designing this program, Dr. Crowe and I very intentionally thought about how we can kind of pick, even though we're both biomedical engineers, even though very different types, how we can make sure that we pick projects and ideas and topics that kind of touch on a ton of these silos, and not just one at a time either. But engineers don't exist, like a mechanical engineer doesn't just exist in mechanics and nothing else. How do those, Dr. Crowe mentioned electromechanical systems is a great example. They're electrical engineering and mechanical engineering coming together, which people don't always associate, but how we can kind of showcase each of these different types of engineering in cohesive ways, kind of intertwining all of them. So we've kind of done that intentionally in this program to showcase that. And we do the same thing in our curriculum for college students, trying to pick examples that go across the whole curriculum. And we work together as a faculty, even though I might be teaching one class, Dr. Crowe's teaching a different class, we still talk about what examples we're bringing, what kind of areas of engineering we're showcasing, and that kind of thing, so that students come out of Wake with this really holistic idea of engineering, along with a really solid foundation in the basics that can sort of be applied to any area of engineering that they want to go into.
Great. Yeah. Thanks so much for sharing all of that, Dr. Kenny. That was really helpful because it is a question we get asked a lot. Okay, that kind of leads into my next question that has to do with alternate Wake Forest Summer Immersion Program institutes. So if a student is considering both the Engineering Institute, perhaps the Technology Institute, and the Coding and Computer Science Institute, talk me through kind of what you see as the biggest differences and how students can kind of decide what's a better fit. And I'll let one of you kind of take the lead on this question.
I can start. So I think
Okay.
that really one of the focuses in the Engineering Institute is exposure to what the different types of engineering are and how we go through kind of the engineering design process. And then we get a little deeper into a few of the disciplines there as well. So that I say, as a holistic view, that's kind of what we're accomplishing in that week. I think the other two institutes you mentioned, technology and computer science, are probably more focused on those specific pieces. Technology is probably more around using the technology that's present in that institute, and the computer science is more around coding tasks. And while we do have coding tasks in our week, that is not the primary focus of the week. And I think deciding which one's a better fit for the student is going to kind of depend on what the student's interests are. So if you're kind of just trying to decide, is engineering right for you? Or if you have decided that, what kind of engineering is right for you? Or even if not that, how could I interact with engineers or include a minor or something in my future academic career? And the engineering institute could be a great fit for you then. I can't really speak to other institutes, though. I don't know if Dr. Kenny has more insight there.
I mean, I think there's definitely going to be overlap at the end of the day. One, because we don't all exist in a vacuum. But I think deciding between them just is a matter of kind of what a student's the most interested in and what they want to find out more about.
Yeah, they honestly all complement each other pretty well. So if you're interested in, both engineering and computer science, or if you're trying to kind of figure out what you may want to pursue, both of those very much mirror what a student might get at Wake. So either in the engineering department or in the computer science department, technology is very much kind of engaging with people who are working in different career pathways and how technology shows up in really diverse career pathways. So engineering mirrors the Wake Forest engineering major, computer science mirrors the computer science major, and technology is kind of this thing that uncovers lots of opportunities and career paths that you might not expect where technology is involved. So that was really good. That was helpful. Thank you for sharing with that. So the next kind of part of this chat is we are going to delve into the logistics side of the Engineering Institute. So talk us through where the Institute actually takes place. Why don't you start us off, Dr. Kenny?
So the Institute takes place at Wake Downtown, which is, I don't even know how far it is from the main campus, but it's like a 10-minute shuttle ride. It's really easy. The students who come downtown, I mean, that's where our offices are, and classrooms are. Wake students take the shuttle all the time. They have surprise. Even when I came here, I was like, oh man, a shuttle. But I was surprised at how much the students were like, no, it's super convenient. And it's kind of cool that it's right downtown because there's a lot of really cool buildings and like sites downtown. And Wake Downtown is actually built into what was formerly Reynolds Tobacco Factory. And so there's a lot of history to the building, and it's been built out and it's super new. And our classrooms are like, what, 45 years old? They built them during COVID, which was a surprise. So near the end of COVID, our classrooms were all built out, and they're really new and they're built for the engineering program. So that's very cool. But students would take the shuttle downtown every morning and then take it back in the afternoon, and we'll be staying on the main Rinaldi campus, as we call it.
Mhm. Yeah, and we will actually provide buses
Oh, perfect.
for the students. So the students won't even be responsible for like independently catching the shuttle. We'll provide buses after breakfast, take you to Wake Downtown. You'll meet your academic leaders, Dr. Kenny and Dr. Crowe, and then we'll bus you back to the main campus at the end of the Engineering Institute. The other cool thing about Wake Downtown and where Dr. Kenny and Dr. Crowe are the building is attached to the School of Medicine. So there are also med students milling about, lots of graduate students, and then we have our undergraduates who are able to interact in these really state-of-the-art buildings. So that's really awesome. Dr. Crowe, I'll let you add on, and then if you could also talk us through what students need to actually bring to the Engineering Institute to be prepared for certain labs, activities, things like that.
Sure. So, I mean, the Institute takes place primarily in Wake Downtown, but you also go on field trips and things like that to other places. You go across the street to biotech to visit our biomedical engineering folks. And you'll also head to field trips, depending on which week you're in. And then we go all through the building. So we spend a lot of times in the classroom, as Dr. Kenny mentioned, but we're also going to spend a little bit of time in our makerspace, the innovation studio. In the basement of the building, it's like a large makerspace fabrication studio where we have a lot of like the more fabrication oriented engineering supplies. So I just want to add that. And then also in terms of what to bring specific to the Institute would be a laptop that can run the Arduino IDE, so probably Windows based. And then long pants and closed-toed shoes, because we're going to do activities that are going to require those basic safety supplies, and we would provide anything else safety-wise that you may need.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Dr. Kenny, I'll pass this next question back off to you. How do you think students' experiences in this relatively short Engineering Institute might connect with future careers or future pursuits, and what skills or insights do you think they'll walk away with that will be valuable to them?
So the way I always describe engineering to students, and to me what students will have the opportunity to develop as part of this institute, is engineering is sort of a lens that we learn how to use to look at the world in a certain way. So engineers basically put on kind of their engineering lens and look at problems, try and solve them. And I always say that the different areas of engineering, like biomedical, mechanical, environmental, is just where you point your lens. Like if you're pointing it at biomedical problems or at environmental. So to me, that lens is something that we kind of start to develop. We start to give students the tools to be able to look at the world like an engineer, to look at problems and have an idea of the methods to solve them, to have an idea of the skills they might need or where to find them. And even if you don't come out of this, you're not going to come out of this institute like, I am an Arduino pro, I am a cardboard building pro, I am, any of these things. We do some 3D printing, some other stuff, but you'll have been exposed to it and have an idea of what that tool looks like and what it can do. And you'll start to look at problems differently. Like, hey, I could I could potentially make that with an Arduino. I could 3D print this part. I could design something to do this. And that kind of momentary hesitation of being like, wait, I could, what, fill in the blank kind of thing, is what I think students take away from this. And I think it's how engineers think. And so I would say that knowledge is what's going to come away, because it is a relatively short experience. So at the end of the day, that's my goal, is like come away from it like, oh, what would an engineer think of this, and start thinking that way.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. And how valuable is it to be able to start to cultivate those skills sooner rather than later? So I think that's amazing. Dr. Crowe, do you have anything to add to that one?
Uh, no, actually, I think Dr. Kenny killed it. I love the lens analogy there. That is something that I am going to steal and use in the future.
Please do.
Okay, so we are going to transition into learning a little bit more about you two as academic leaders, which is one of my favorite parts of this fireside chat. So we'll start with you, Dr. Kenny, or actually, let's start with you, Dr. Crowe, since
Thanks.
it's your turn. So, Dr. Crowe, what is a fun fact or a hidden talent or quirky hobby that would totally surprise your high school student?
It's difficult to pick one that's like truly a surprise. I can name a couple and maybe someone will be surprised by one of them. The one I mentioned is that I am a track driver, so I have a race car, track car that I take to the track and drive. Other one is that I'm a huge 3D printing enthusiast, but that's probably not surprising to just about anybody. And then I used to be a competitive downhill mountain biking racer, so but I was not that good, but I did compete. I think that covers it.
Oh, I didn't know that about you, Dr. Crowe. That's cool. All right, Dr. Kenny, what do you have to share?
Oh man. I have two. So I like to think of like weird fun facts, not like I've got hobbies and stuff I could add to that, but I'm going to give you some weird fun facts. So one of my fun facts about myself is, if you've heard of the video game World of Warcraft, which most people have heard of, I had a former student, not as a professor. This was like a student. I actually taught horseback riding lessons to as like a teen. Eventually went on to work in programming at Blizzard, which makes World of Warcraft. And for my birthday one year, she immortalized me as a non-playable character. So if you look up Melissa Kenny, World of Warcraft, I exist in World of Warcraft. And I give like a little mission to players to do something. So, and if you don't know World of Warcraft because you're too young and that was a different generation, you should know Fortnite. And I was also a beta tester for Fortnite because I knew someone who coded it. So
That
I
is
stopped playing though when like the 12-year-old kids started screaming at me. It was just a hit to the confidence. So
that is so cool. I wish I could play World of Warcraft so you could give me a
I
mission.
don't actually play it. I played it for like a month, but you have to pay like a monthly subscription to pay it, and I was just not committed enough. But I
That's
exist in it. So that's my fun fact.
those are fun. You guys both did great with those fun facts. Okay, so we're going to now move into our rapid fire questions, everyone's favorite segment of the fireside chat. So I'll say the category, you guys share, you know, what your favorite is of each of the categories. So favorite book.
Uh, I'm a big Harry Potter fan, but outside of popular books, my favorite author is favorite book is pretty much anything by Robin Hobb.
So I'm also a huge Harry Potter fan. I've probably read the books half a dozen times at this point. But I would say my favorite book right now is Adrift by Scott Galloway. It's an economics and pictures book from the last 50 years. It's pretty interesting.
Oh, interesting. Fun fact, I am currently rereading all the Harry Potters. So 3
I
Harry Potter.
do that every other year. You can quiz me on book knowledge anytime. Movie knowledge, no, that's overrated. But book knowledge, I'm here for it.
I'm on Chamber of Secrets night right now, almost done. Okay, favorite movie or TV show?
My favorite movie of all time is The Prestige. It's just, I mean, David Bowie plays Nikola Tesla. Like, what is not to love? Hugh Jackman's in it, Christian Bale, Scarlett Johansson, Piper Perabo. It's just, and it's a shock at the end. If you haven't seen it,
Yeah.
12 out of 10.
Okay.
I think that as a car enthusiast, I am mandated to say that my favorite TV show is Top Gear.
That's fair.
But if my wife is asking, then I guess it's whatever her favorite TV show is at the time.
Happy wife, happy life, right?
I think it's 90 Day Fiance right now.
It's a bit of a change.
It is
Yeah,
slightly different.
it's a little bit of a spectrum there. All right, what are you currently listening to? Music, podcasts, audiobook.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest here. I'm always listening to Taylor Swift, and I'm not ashamed of it.
So I listen to slightly different music. I listen to metalcore, which is like screaming and drums.
Like the exact opposite of what I said.
But there are Taylor Swift covers by metalcore bands. So
Dude, the
it's
emo covers of Taylor Swift songs are legit. They call it Swemo.
love it. I love
You
it.
should, if you haven't, if you're like, oh, I don't like Taylor Swift, like look up some emo covers are like 10 out of 10.
And I also listen to a lot of like, NPR news podcasts and stuff because
That's not for me.
aren't we required to when you become a professor? I thought they didn't mail you the thing. Okay, never mind.
No, sorry.
Favorite food?
Pasta. Anything noodles, I'm in. But I do like Mexican food besides that, but like real Mexican, not like the Tex-Mex where it just all becomes one blob on your plate. Although that's still good, to be clear. It's just not my favorite.
Blob on the plate.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, oh yeah. This is like a super impossible question for me because as a 260-pound guy, I love food. But
So your answer should just be food.
Food. But I think if I had to pick something, I would just say like American breakfast food, like biscuit and gravy
It's
with
very
and
Parks and
some
Recreation
salsa.
of you. The main character loves waffles.
Oh, love, love, love. I love making pancakes and yeah.
See, I don't understand biscuits and gravy because as someone who is originally from the Northeast, like gravy is not supposed to be white. So it kind of throws me off. Biscuits and gravy in the South is white gravy, and I can't get into it.
Yeah, I was raised in a no sausage family until I was like 18, and then I tried it and I was like, well, never going back now. So
That's fair.
Another fun fact about you, Dr. Crowe. Okay. Do you guys have any pets?
Yeah, a lot of pets. I have 3 dogs, a turtle, and a horse.
Animal lover, Dr. Kenny.
I have fewer pets than that. But I have 2 dogs, a cat, and 6 chickens.
I think that's actually more
Well, I
pets
guess
than me.
more number, but fewer I guess fewer in excitability. Chickens are just there. They're not really pets.
I will say a fun fact about me is I've never actually made the conscious decision to have a pet. They were all like given to me or like I inherited from my husband, that kind of thing. I've never actually said, boy, I want a dog or I want a horse. It was like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I have one pet is actually I have 1 dog. Everything else is my wife came home one day with this thing, and I of course love
I
it.
aspire to be that kind of person, but
It's great.
I tried to convince my husband to get a cat and it didn't go well. So I'll try again in like a
You
year.
just gotta show up with one,
I told him if I find a kitten, he doesn't have a say. So
Whatever. Love it.
Have you all ever like engineered something for all of your animals or your pets?
I created a drawing of my 3 dogs' heads and actually sublimate printed it onto a license plate. And so all their faces are on my front license plate on my car. Because we kept my old car and we just call it the dog mobile now because the dogs aren't allowed in the new fancy car. So their faces are on the front.
That's cool.
I designed and built so before I started this job, I built out a van into an RV to travel across the country and back with my wife after we graduated from grad school together. And we had to put the dogs somewhere. So I designed and built like the dog area for that had nothing around it that would like fall on them. And we also could pull the bed over it So like this was like in case it's pouring down rain, you have to get in the van. So I had to design like this area for the dogs.
That's cool.
That's really cool. Do you still have this van?
No, I sold it to buy a house. And a
Mm,
good thing I did because it was a good time to sell RVs back then.
oh, you guys are fun. All right. What is your favorite hobby? We've kind of talked about a few.
I'm a horseback rider. That's why I have a horse. So that's my favorite thing to do. Although I currently have a healing broken arm and I'm not allowed to ride because my horse broke my arm, to be clear. But I'm going to go back to it because I am a crazy horse girl and I'm okay with that.
It's still your favorite hobby.
Yep.
I would say my favorite hobby is tracking my car, and my track car has never bucked me off or broken my arm. Just saying.
It's fair. It's
It
fair.
has tried to catch on fire once, but that's, we don't.
Dr. Crowe loves to tinker with cars. He's actually helped me to part of the undercarriage of my car fell off one day while I was at work, and I just came back into the building and asked Dr. Crowe, and he zip tied it back on, and it's still zip tied to the bottom of my car. Works great.
Well, zip ties. There you go.
They're no different than the plastic little nails they use
Yeah,
on
it's basically
cars.
the same thing. Still there,
Yeah.
still does.
Well, good to know. Good to know if I ever have a car issue in Winston-Salem over the summer.
I mean, that's a real thing. You
Yeah.
should.
I know that's a real thing. Okay, last rapid fire question. These haven't been as rapid as normal, but I've really enjoyed it. What is your favorite place that you've ever traveled?
For me, it's Ireland. I love Ireland. It's just green and pretty, and like all the fences are like stone fences, and the cities are cool. The people are nice. I love Ireland.
Gorgeous.
I really want to go to Ireland. I've not been. I've heard awesome. It depends on who I'm traveling with, and I hate to be
Ooh.
this annoying, but if I'm traveling with one of my like buddies, then the Nürburgring, which is like a legendary racetrack in Germany. We went there and drove on it and watched a race. It's a good time. But favorite place I've been with like my wife is Portugal.
That's great. Well, thank you. Thank you all for walking through those with me. Okay, we're winding down just to close out talking about the Engineering Institute. So if you had to describe the Engineering Institute in just 3 words, what would they be?
There's so many words. Innovative to me is one. I'll start with one and then have Dr. Crowe pick another.
Oh no. I feel like I should have like planned for this because I don't know. I feel like
That's
there's
3
got to be
words. No.
an innovative, creative.
Ooh, I like that. And I'm gonna go with fun.
Great,
So
innovative,
there's
creative,
fun.
fun. I would say that's about right. That really encapsulates the Engineering Institute. Finish this sentence. I'll have you both answer. You should experience the Engineering Institute if you're someone who blank. You can start, Dr. Kenny.
you should experience the Engineering Institute if you're someone who likes to design, likes to take things apart, likes to see how things work, and likes to look at problems and try and figure out a way to solve them.
Cool. Yeah. Dr. Crowe, you should experience the Engineering Institute if you're someone who blank.
I would say likes to ask questions.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Great. Okay, last, I'll have one of you answer this question. What is your favorite thing about working with high school students in this program? You can take it, Dr. Kenny.
I really love working with high school students. I think high school students are just at such like this pivotal moment in their lives where you're becoming young adults and like trying to figure out what the future might look like for you. And I feel like everyone's asking the question like, where are you going to go to college, or what are you going to major in, and things like that. And I think those are such discrete answers, but it's just as important to know like where you see yourself in 20 years. Like, do you see yourself sitting in an office? Do you see yourself managing people? Do you want to be a leader? Do you want, and like understanding all of those, the topics, you can figure that out if you like engineering, or you like art, or you like history, or whatever it is. But kind of visualizing the type of career and the type of day-to-day life that you want. I just really enjoy working with high school students and college freshmen. I teach our freshman engineering class every semester, and just talking about those things, trying to kind of figure out what you see in the future and what's important to you, and not stressing it. You'll learn a
Yeah.
lot. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life until I was like 4 years into grad school. So,
Yeah.
take your time.
That is one of our biggest goals for the summer immersion program, because we just understand that high school is every year becoming a more pressure filled time in a student's life. And so the summer immersion program hopefully allows students to just explore their curiosities, kind of like figure out what feels good in terms of learning, and with zero pressure. So no grades, no exams. You're not being graded on any of the things we have talked about. It's purely for that light bulb to go off, and just to be excited about asking the questions and learning in general. So that's great. Dr. Crowe, is there anything you want to add?
Yeah, I guess I would add that high school students are usually like really excited to learn these topics. A lot of times they have like elected to come to this program. And I love that they are interested in like exploring all these topics. And that unlike a lot of times in the classroom with undergrads, it's not about the grade here. It's about just like excitement of the topic and trying to like solve some challenge and like doing it because you want to and not feeling like you have to. And that's like a big piece of this to me is I just find like the energy very positive when we're doing this
Mhm.
job.
Yeah, the energy is contagious. All right. Well, we have our last question of this fireside chat, so I'll let you both answer. Why wake? Dr. Kenny, we'll start with you.
Um, I think it's just such a great community. It's like the perfect size. None of our classes are too big. There's an awesome ratio of professors to students. And I know that all sounds like stuff you like your parents care more about than like a student cares about, but it means like your professors actually get to know you and have a stake in like your success. Which I don't think you get quite as much at a really big school. And I think Wake's infusion of the liberal arts and like opportunities and kind of messaging, and the Wake motto is pro humanitate, so for humanity, like everything kind of comes back to what can we do for humans, as a human race, like what can we do for our community, what can we do for society. And I think it's just an awesome, I just love all the students that come through here. I love our department and the faculty that we've just created a really nice community. And so to me that makes it easier to learn and easier to feel like accepted, and that's the Wake like feeling. I mean, yeah, you could talk about the prestige, the acceptance rate, and some of those, oh, what it'll look like on your resume to get a job and that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day it's also a place that's going to help every student cultivate success, no matter what that means to them.
Great. What about you, Dr. Crowe? Why wake?
I love what Dr. Kenny said there, but I think if I was going to add something to that, I would I would try to like paint the picture of like you're struggling with some concept, right? And you need kind of want to get help with figuring out like what is this thing? I don't know Thevenin's equations or whatever it is, right? Simplification. And in a lot of institutions that I've been to, or I'm sure Dr. Kenny been to, it's difficult to sometimes to approach faculty or to um, start that conversation with them, especially if you haven't had much conversation with them before. But one thing that our faculty, at least in engineering that I'm aware of, is we're all very friendly and we're all very invested in making sure that you succeed. And that investment is purely like self-motivated. We just all genuinely want you to do well, and we want to help you to do well. It's not a place where you just like you can just like coast through, but it is a place where we are here to support you and to help make sure that you actually learn the content and that you succeed. As Dr. Kenny said, whatever that means, whatever that success metric means to you. You can look up all the statistics of all the things, the numbers are everywhere, but I think really what it boils down to is the people who work in at least the engineering department. I know the rest of the university too, but I have a lot more experience with the engineering department. And whether it's like the faculty or even the students, some of the students we have like a group of students that help each other with like tutoring. So like some of the older students are working with the freshmen and sophomores to help them through their classes. And I love that sense of community that we've built here. That's the big thing to me.
Yeah, that's beautiful what you just both shared. I feel just so privileged that I get to work with you and privileged that you are a part of the summer immersion program. So I thank you so much for giving us 2 weeks of your summers just to give back to high school students and allow them to just kind of take part in the magic of Dr. Kenny and Dr. Crowe and engineering at Wake Forest. So thank you both so much for joining me for this fireside chat. Hopefully this was helpful for those of you that are interested in the Engineering Institute. And as always, if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We are more than happy to answer any of those questions. But otherwise, thank you so much, Dr. Kenny and Dr. Crowe, for being here, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.